This is the Morning Sports Desk for Tuesday, December 12th. Corey, you had a pretty good game with the Cardinal Cup yesterday, and that had the Staples Motley Cardinals, the Uppsala Cardinals, a lot of red and white in that gym yesterday, huh?
Yeah, there sure was. Uppsala on the road got a 64-60 victory over Staples Motley. And just a fun kind of paced basketball game. Not a lot of points for two teams, I think, who want to get the ball up and down the floor a little bit. But I want to give both of them credit because they want to get out in transition. Both coaches told me they wanted to get out in transition, get those easy buckets when the opportunity arose. But sometimes those teams that like to get out and really, really run, they lose their focus in the half court. And neither of these teams did that. They definitely had their plan in the half court and then wanted to take advantage of up-tempo stuff when the opportunity gave it to them. So any miss, let's get out and go. Obviously, any turnover, let's get out and go. After a make, let's get the ball on the floor and see what happens. And then, obviously, with the shot clock now in high school basketball, it changes your approach just a little bit. You want to maybe not spend a ton of time lingering around in the front court. You know, you get it across the timeline and get into your offense. But and neither team, I thought, lost sight of the just because we didn't get our transition bucket means we have to force the issue in the half court. I thought they remained disciplined on that end of the floor, which was pretty nice. A really nice, I thought, early season basketball game for both of those teams and for Uppsala to go on the road now. Nice little start. Uppsala's 3-1. They've got victories now over 2A Holding Ford and Staples Motley. I think Staples Motley, that boys team is going to be okay. They've got a brand new head coach this year. So there's some growing pains that come with that. Just learning a new system and what's expected of you. And I know basketball is basketball, but there's just some nitpicky specific things that each one coach emphasizes over another coach, and that's going to be an important thing to understand and learn. And as the season goes along, that Cardinal boys basketball team, I think, is Staples Motley. It's going to be okay. And it seems like Uppsala's got a little something cooking here in the early part of the season, which is cool.
Yeah, definitely a team to watch in that south part of Section 5A. I know I can't remember what side of the bracket Browerville is on. I know they kind of fluctuate, but it's them and Browerville and Nevis. They're always kind of towards the top. And yeah, like you said, a new kind of regime there at Staples Motley. So should be fun basketball for the Cardinals this season. Which one am I talking about? Yes.
I think you're right, by the way.
Yeah. Both of them. Hey, Corey, speaking of basketball, yesterday the Minnesota Timberwolves played the New Orleans Pelicans, and always a tough matchup. I feel like New Orleans is for the Wolves. I can't quite explain it. I know Ant wasn't playing yesterday, still kind of dealing with that hip. I'm fine with it. Wolves are they got a lot of games to play.
Well, he came back and kind of re-aggravated it. So, right. Yeah, we might not. He's done probably till the new year, right?
Right. Well, he probably tried to push through it and then, realized he wasn't healthy. And they're like, well, what are we doing here? It's December. Like, we don't need you playing through something now, re-aggravating it to the point where he's out for 3 months or something. Jaden McDaniels did come back to the lineup, though, yesterday, which was important for the Wolves. But I mean, other than that, I kind of was in and out of the game. I was at my parents' house yesterday, and they flipped the game on. I'm like, awesome. And then 8:00, my brother grabs the remote and changes the channel. It's like, we're watching Big Brother reindeer games instead. Yeah, I know. But so that's what happens when you go back to your parents' house for a night. They invite you over for food, and you're like, yeah, I'll sit and watch the game. And then all of a sudden, your brother grabs the remote and changes the channel.
Hey, do you want to come over and watch Big Brother reindeer games?
Yeah, if that was the premise, I would.
No.
Yeah, if that was the premise, I would have stayed at home.
Yeah, I'll make a grilled cheese. Thanks.
Yes.
Did Zion play?
Yes, he did. And Zion gets the superstar whistle, despite not doing anything to be a superstar, which bothers me to high heaven because the Wolves, and this isn't a refs are bad, refs are bad. I'm not trying to, Wolves lost that game.
They are, though.
They didn't shoot well enough. Minnesota did generally. But yeah, you're right. Like they're spotty, and the refs, once again, poorly officiate a game. Zion runs through the lane like an NFL running back who's built like an NFL lineman. In the words of Booger McFarland on Monday Night Football, he's a Popeye's biscuit away from becoming a tight end. Like that guy is
but Zion's closer to a left tackle. He's huge.
He's one Popeye's biscuit away from becoming the starting center of the New Orleans Saints.
Correct.
But he gets the whistle. He can just bully his way through the lane and not get a call. Gobert got in foul trouble early, and McDaniels got in foul trouble. Cat had a nice start to the game. Things got weird. He fouled out. Like the Wolves didn't play a clean game. The refs didn't help. There was very, very touchy whistles on some stuff where even Jim Pete, who I think is like, he's obviously a Wolves homer, but on the broadcast,
he's pretty fair.
And he's like, these whistles are like, one of them happened right away initially. He's like, that's ticky tack. And then watches the replay and it's just like, yeah.
It's 40 free. The New Orleans shot 40 free throws last night. And there is something to be said. And it's true. There have been studies done on this, like the home whistle for the and the visitor whistle. Those two teams, the home team and the visiting team, are officiated. It's two different games that are happening. It's how we officiate, because it's just been found they're influenced by
30,000 people screaming at them,
the fans, and they're influenced by Zion being a big name and a big body. And also Zion just got hammered.
He got hammered on national media
after the in-season tournament stuff. Like, the people were just like, he's huge.
Stephen A. Smith called him fat.
Well, he is out of shape. He's out of shape. I mean, the stories out about him, they're every other week at this point, are like, the Pelicans have told him, here's a diet you need to be on, and here's a way to stay in shape. And Zion has basically told them, kick rocks. I'm not doing it. You can't tell me what to do. That dude has no interest.
Remember when
being the superstar, actually.
Remember when Karl Anthony Towns got after Ant a year ago and was like, hey, he can't be, like, it's fun for him to joke about eating McChickens and Popeyes all the time, but he can't be doing that. And that story ended. And nobody's went, Ant doesn't seem like he's in shape. And Zion, it's like, hey, man, you got to stop eating Popeyes. And he's like, actually, I'll have another one. Thank you.
But the thing about the Karl story and Ant was out of shape last year.
Right.
He came in, not this year. We haven't heard those stories.
That's my point. Is like that problem doesn't linger.
It doesn't linger because Ant learned his lesson, and Zion seems to have not learned his lesson. That being said, he still is a freak basketball player, and when he decides that he's just going to do it, he can do what he did. He can bowl right through people. He can get to the rim whenever he wants because he's still got a lightning quick first step, and he's just dynamic. And when you get hammered like that nationally, you're going to come out and try to prove some people. I don't know what his final numbers were or anything like that.
He had a good game.
But I wondered what that was going to look like because they got after him.
And also they haven't played. The Pelicans were off since Thursday, so they had a lot of time to like practice and just kind of zone in specifically on the Wolves. The Wolves played on Saturday, I think, was their last game.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So whatever. They had maybe a game in somewhere in there. Maybe they played Friday night. I think whatever.
It was Friday,
Saturday, something like that. They'd been off. They were home. They had a lot of things going their way. Somebody made this tweet. I think it's a beat reporter for the Wolves from the Pioneer Press. And what he said was, sometimes in the regular season, motivation is more important than preparation. And this was just a regular season game where New Orleans and specifically Zion was just very motivated to prove some people wrong.
Yep.
And whatever. New Orleans isn't a bad team. That's not a bad loss.
And a good lesson. It's not a bad loss. That's probably the best way to put it. You went on the road against a conference, a team in conference, and it's fine. It's totally fine.
It's
also a good lesson that you can't just go somewhere and expect to win. Everything about this Timberwolves team is like you can flip it to a positive because it seems like there's so much there.
Yeah.
Hey, you can't go into New Orleans and just you can't waltz in and expect to come out with a victory.
Especially when Ant doesn't play.
You gotta kind of earn it.
Yeah, exactly. So, let's not panic about the Wolves.
What is that loss number 5?
Yep. They're 17-5. Oh no.
Well, if they can only afford 3 more losses the rest of the season if they want the best record of all time.
Yeah. So they better get on it. Wolves, come on now.
I should look. What was the top team in the league last year?
At this time, or just in general? Because I think
would I say 2023?
Who had the
final standings?
The 1 seed in the East was Milwaukee because they lost to Miami, and I think the 1 seed in the West, I think, was Denver because the Wolves played them because they're the 8. So it was either it's either Denver or Milwaukee.
2022. So the Celtics had 57 wins. The Bucks had 58 wins. Oh boy, scrolled too far. In the Western, Nuggets 53. So the most wins a team had last year. Nobody had even 60 wins last season.
Mm-hmm.
So that there's certainly margin for error, as if we all know. It's just kind of fascinating. I think a lot of times we think like you got to have. To be the number 1 team, you got to have 66, 67 wins.
Right, out of 82.
And that's just not.
That's a lot.
If you get to 60, you're probably going to be the 1 seed.
And it's a tough stretch for the Wolves because I think their next 5 games are against
December's tough.
December's a very tough stretch. They got the Kings coming up. They also have I think the Lakers mixed in there. They have the Heat. They have some tough games. So over this counting yesterday. And the next 5 games, if they can go 3-3 in this stretch, they're fine. So
I would, and especially if they're not going to have Ant and they're not going to have
McDaniels is working his way back into game shape and stuff like that. Yeah, things will work out.
At Dallas on Thursday, at home versus the Pacers. Pacers, we all know, are feisty. They're going to be raring to roll coming out of that in-season tournament. Boy, they were fun to watch in that. Travel to Miami. To the 76ers, host the Lakers. They played the Lakers twice before the new year.
Right. So one last thing for Minnesota sports related that we'll talk about today. I know we mentioned Joe Mauer. We were going to push that back a day because this is important, Corey. The Vikings only scored 3 points this week.
Yep.
They scored 13 points over the last 2 games.
Yep.
And yet their playoff odds have went up.
Yeah.
Their playoff odds went up thanks to the Green Bay Packers losing. Oh, they choked to a backup quarterback.
Tommy D.
You's guys been DeVito'd.
Was he the Rutgers?
No, he played quarterback for Illinois. But he's from New Jersey. And
that's what it is.
He lives with his parents, and his agent was wearing like a mobster suit, like he's going to go work for Al Capone.
I saw that. That was amazing.
Oh, man, they're leaning into a great bit over there.
You know what? I hate to break this to you. I don't think they're leaning into anything. I kind of think that's what they are.
There was the Giants posted a video of DeVito sitting with like a guy who runs like an Italian restaurant somewhere in New York City, and they're just going over like, rank your top 5 pasta, your top 5 chicken, your top, like everything. It's the most Italian thing you've ever seen.
They do a lot of this when a lot of talking with their hands. Now listen, come on,
they turn on the Italian like a dad at the Olive Garden. Like
it's super cool, man. It's fun for them, but also it's fun that the Packers lost. It's even more fun for me that
they lose.
But I have to like, it's weird to say, watch out for Chicago.
Right. They handled Detroit.
Chicago is, I think, a game or a half a game out of a playoff spot.
It's a weird situation that we're all in. So right now, the Vikings, their playoff odds after yesterday's action moved up to 66% chance to make the playoffs, a 16% chance to win the NFC North, according to ESPN. If you go to playoffstatus.com, the Vikings had a very nice 69% chance to make the playoffs and a 1% chance to win the Super Bowl. So you're saying there's a chance.
More like 1 in a million.
That's all we need.
I want to have some more conversation about Brian Flores. I want to have some conversation.
Maybe that's a good question for tomorrow.
About Joe Mauer. There's lots of stuff and things still on the horizon for the Vikings. They got to decide now. You got to lose out or win out. There's basically anything in between now. You're just you're wrecking your chances at anything positive.
The Vikings, to make the playoffs, just need to win 2 games out of their next 4. I think that's the baseline. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it might be more advantageous for the Vikings to lose out because, as we've learned with the quarterback situation, they're not going to, I mean, you saw it, a 70% chance to make the postseason, but a 1% chance to win the Super Bowl. Like, you know, it's kind of the thing of like, for the culture, do you want the Vikings to get in because they're your favorite football team and you'd like to see them win more football games and play more football games? You know, I'm certainly in the camp of, you know, forget the long-term future. That's going to be what it's going to be. The Vikings should actually just try and get into the playoffs and just prove that they're a good team capable of good things than that they're just a quarterback away from being competitive again. But man, all of this got me to think, man, if Kirk didn't pop his Achilles, he was on the Manning cast last night. I thought he was great. He was with Peyton and Eli. Peyton and Eli really liked having him there because they just asked him quarterback questions. I thought Kirk talked really well about like him getting drafted and him being like, you know, knowing he was going to draft to be the backup. He's like, oh man, I'm never going to play. And his dad's like, well, if Mike Shanahan drafted you, like that's probably a good sign if they think that you're pretty good. And, you know, he ended up having his career and it's really fun. It was really fun having listening to him on the Manning cast yesterday. But man, if Kirk would have just not tore his Achilles, I know it's not his fault, the Vikings would seriously be doing some damage. They seriously would have a legitimate shot of running through this NFC right now. But we don't because we're Vikings fans and we can't have nice things. This has been the Morning Sports Desk for Tuesday, December 12th. It's 7:32 on KWAD MNN News.
Minnesota News Network, I'm Brent Palm. We could learn the final design later today for Minnesota's new state.